The match between Australia and South Africa at the ongoing ICC Champions Trophy was washed out. Pretty disappointing, as it will hamper the qualification scenario in that group. A tough one, especially because it has Australia, England, South Africa and Afghanistan. Four very worthy and top contenders in world cricket today, two of whom will go through to the semi-finals. But before I get to just how it will affect the qualification and what that group looks like post this washout, let me bring you some strong reactions that came in after that game was called off. Indian commentator, former cricketer Mohammad Kaif was not too pleased with the way the PCB had dealt with the situation. He took to his social media platform to express his surprise and horror at the way the ground staff had responded to the rains. As was observed by the constant updates that we were getting and also speaking to some of the commentators who were present there, I gathered that the rain did not stop entirely at any point till it was called off, the match was called off. Though it was not heavy, just a drizzle and possibly a heavy drizzle momentarily. The picture that was posted and what we of course saw there was only the pitch and certain sections around it being covered. And inputs from Rawalpindi suggested that at some point the puddles of water being collected on those sheets there spilled onto parts of the ground that was not covered. The commentator here was livid at Pakistan not taking the right precautions in maintaining the grounds during the rains. Now, why is this important? One, if the rains managed to halt at some point for maybe a curtailed match to take place, the ground staff would have been able to get the ground ready faster. Sheets would have protected the outfield as well, which means not much work would have gone into sopping up all the moisture and getting it ready for the match. Also ensuring the outfield would not be slippery, which would only put players in danger of picking up any niggle while fielding. Two, let's say the rains do not abate at all, which is what happened till they called the match off. You have a relatively easier task of prepping the outfield and the ground for the next match that is scheduled. In fact, in a day, that's tomorrow. Of course, the larger point that the commentator here was trying to make is the upkeep of a stadium that ICC invested a lot on just to get ready and renovated in time for the tournament. So how does this affect the group scenario in terms of qualification? Let's bring you the group standings here, of course. Australia and South Africa, thanks to this washout, are probably the better placed teams in this particular group. They share that 1 point, which is what is helping them get to 3. Of course, both registered solid wins in their first game, so this extra point has only helped them, if at all. But of course, that puts all the pressure on a team like England, which hasn't won their first game, and they now have the ominous task of banishing the demons of losing to Afghanistan in a World Cup game that happened quite recently, to get those 2 important points that will somehow force their contention in this dynamics, which would mean that the South Africa-England game then becomes pretty much a knockout. But notice how I'm assuming Australia will get past Afghanistan. That isn't all too certain either. Remember how close the Afghans ran the Aussies during the 2023 ODI World Cup game. But you see how a washout has impacted what the outcome of this group would be like. That is how the format in this tournament works. But to get back to the PCB and the infrastructure concerns, there are also murmurs of dissent within the board of the current chief, Mohsin Naqvi, only focusing on the infrastructure of the stadiums and nothing else, like grassroots development or investing in domestic tournaments. Ironical, as the board that focused so much on getting this stadium renovated and refurbished is now being condemned for the way they have taken care of it during the tournament. But this washout almost giving deja vu feels, flashes of the matches in Florida getting washed out last year during the T20 World Cup, and again receiving flack for not doing enough to prevent the rains from affecting the grounds. That is what comes to mind here. Either ways, what this abandoned game has done in Rawalpindi is it has inadvertently made this group all the more interesting.
Merci beaucoup. Hi, how are you?
Very well, thank you.
Thank you for being here.
Namaste, Mr. President.
Bharat Kelogon, Komeri Namaste.
How many people generally follow you in interviews?
Typically in a month, we have viewers up to 150 million. That's more than twice the population of France. And in the last 2 years, we had 3 billion viewers. So I say, Laurent, this is your chance to be famous. You're on Firstpost. One word to describe your equation with Prime Minister Modi.
Amitié.
As India and France work together, are you creating a new era of non-alignment in the technology space?
India is a training superpower. 1 million engineers a year, more than all of Europe and the US combined. So we have that partnership. We have a partnership on the environment and the economy. We also have civilian nuclear programs, and that is something we've developed far beyond the France-India relationship. So we want to work together on AI.
And then comes China with its DeepSeek, creating models at a fraction of the cost. Did that innovation take you by surprise? Did that breakthrough make you sit up and think, what did the Chinese do and how?
But what did DeepSeek do? They took everything that was already available from the last AI model, and then they recalibrated it.
So are you going to ban Chinese AI in France?
So we don't have this American approach of banning tech because of where it comes from.